Max had always known that being a diplomat wasn't easy. As a human representative on a mission to the planet Zereth, he expected to face many challenges. The Zereths were an alien species known for their advanced technology and peaceful nature. They lived in harmony with nature and had never waged war, but they lacked any deep understanding of human culture. This was where Max came in. His job was to bridge the gap between their civilizations, to share knowledge, and to create a relationship built on trust. Max had been on the planet for a few weeks, meeting with leaders and scientists, discussing everything from trade to technology. Yet despite the importance of his mission, it was the meeting with Lyra that would change everything. Lyra was a Zereth scholar, intelligent and deeply curious. Unlike most of her people, who preferred to study history and technology, Lyra had an interest in something far more unusual: humans. She found human biology, especially reproduction, fascinating. While other Zereths dismissed human relationships as primitive, Lyra saw them as a mystery she needed to understand. Max had met Lyra during a scheduled meeting in the Zereth city's library. He had been introduced to her by the head of their science division, who spoke highly of her intellect. Lyra had been calm, composed, and entirely focused on her research. "I have studied everything I can find about humans," Lyra had said to him that first day. "But there is one thing I don't fully understand. How do humans reproduce?" Max had been taken aback. No one had ever asked him that directly before. Most humans wouldn't even bring it up in casual conversation. But Lyra was different. She didn't ask out of curiosity for the sake of gossip. She wanted to understand the very core of what made humans. Well, Max began carefully, trying to find a way to explain human reproduction it's very personal. It involves emotional connections. It's not just about biology. It's about love, trust, and sometimes even sacrifice. Lyra listened closely, her eyes fixed on him, as though she could see the words he was saying in a completely different light. She had read about human biology before, about the way human cells combined and grew into new life, but she had never heard about the emotions that went with it. "So, it's not just a biological function?" Lyra asked, her voice tinged with curiosity. Max shook his head. "No, it's much more than that. It's about connection between two people. It's the bond that grows over time." Lyra's interest only grew stronger. The concept of emotional connection was something foreign. To her, Zereths didn't experience emotions the same way humans did. For them, knowledge and logic were more important than feelings. But Lyra felt something different when she listened to Max. She could sense the depth of what he was saying, though it was still hard for her to fully understand. Over the next few days, Lyra spent more time with Max. She asked him endless questions about human life, about how relationships were formed, how emotions were expressed, and how humans communicated their feelings. Max explained everything as best as he could, although he found it difficult to put certain things into words. It wasn't something easily explained, especially to someone who had never experienced the emotions that humans held dear. One afternoon, Lyra invited Max to her study, a large room filled with books, strange gadgets, and holographic displays. She had gathered a lot of human data and wanted to discuss it with him. Lyra's gaze softened, and for the first time Max saw a glimmer of something in her eyes, something close to longing. "Is it something that can be taught?" she asked, her voice quiet but eager. Max looked at her for a long moment. He had never seen an alien with such genuine interest in human emotions. Most species, when they learned about humans, dismissed their feelings as a weakness, but Lyra wasn't like the others. She wanted to know more, to truly understand. "I don't know if it can be taught," Max said slowly, "but I can try. To help you understand it, the most important part is to respect it and the people involved." Lyra nodded. "I understand. It's about respect. But is there more to it? Can we explore it together, perhaps?" Max blinked in surprise. Did she mean? He had no idea how to answer her. Lyra wasn't asking about anything physical, at least, not in the way he expected. But there was something in her question, something that felt different. I think that's something we'll have to talk about more, Lyra," he replied. Unsure of how to proceed. "It's not just something you can try. It's something you have to experience over time. Lyra's eyes were full of sincerity as she smiled. I will be patient, Max. I want to understand you and your people. I want to learn. And for the first time, Max truly believed her. Max wasn't sure what to expect when he met Lyra in her study that afternoon. It had been a few days since their last conversation, and her curiosity about human biology hadn't slowed down. Lyra had spent hours researching everything she could about humans. She had read about their social structures, emotions, and reproduction, but none of it had answered the questions she had lingering in her mind. There was something deeper, something beyond the facts, that she longed to understand. The room was quiet as Max walked in. Lyra was standing by a large holographic display, her eyes scanning the information projected in the air. As he approached, she turned toward him, a soft smile on her face. Max, thank you for coming, she said, her voice calm, but full of eagerness. I've been reading more, but I still feel that there is so much more to understand. Could you help me? Max nodded, trying to steady his thoughts. Lyra's fascination with human biology was unlike anything he had ever encountered. He wasn't sure whether to be flattered or concerned. She wanted to know everything, and her questions were becoming more personal with each passing day. I'll do my best, he said, sitting down across from her. What have you been reading about? Lyra gestured to the floating screen. I've read about the biological process, how the human body creates new life. But it doesn't explain the emotional aspect. I want to understand why humans feel so strongly about reproduction. Why is it so important? Max took a deep breath. He had been expecting this question. It wasn't easy to explain something so complex in simple terms, but he knew he had to try. Reproduction for humans is more than just creating new life, Max began slowly. It's tied to emotions, to love. It's a way for people to express how deeply they care about each other. It's not just about the biological function. It's about building something together, a family, a future. Lyra was silent for a moment, her eyes fixed on him. Max could see the wheels turning in her mind. She was processing everything he said, but it was clear that she was struggling to fully understand. The idea of emotions being so deeply tied to something as practical as reproduction was foreign to her. But why is it so complicated? Lyra asked. Why do humans make it so emotional? Isn't it just biology, the same as other creatures? Max shook his head. No, for humans, it's never just about biology. It's about connection. It's about trust, shared experiences, and the future. We don't just want to create life. We want to create a bond, a lasting relationship, a promise to each other. Lyra's gaze softened. So humans bond through this. Promise? Yes, Max said quietly. It's a promise to love, protect, and care for each other. And it doesn't just end with the creation of life. It's a lifetime commitment. Lyra was deep in thought. I understand the words you're saying, but I don't think I fully understand the feeling behind them. It's like something intangible. Max looked at her, seeing the genuine confusion in her eyes. Ouch. She wasn't just curious about human reproduction. She was trying to understand something that, for humans, was so deeply ingrained in their existence. It wasn't just knowledge she sought it was a connection. I don't think anyone can truly understand it without feeling it, Max said. Softly. It's something that comes with time and experience. You have to go through it, live it, and feel it for yourself. That's how you understand. Lyra nodded slowly, processing his words. Also, you're saying that this emotional bond is something that can't be learned just by reading or hearing about it. Max's gaze softened. Exactly. It's something you have to experience. And even then, it's not always easy to understand. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Max felt the weight of the conversation pressing down on him. Lyra wasn't just asking for information. She was trying to understand what made humans tick. What made them human? But that was something he couldn't just explain. It was something only those who had lived it could understand. Finally, Lyra spoke again, her voice quieter this time. Max, if you don't mind me asking, could we try to experience this together? Not in the way humans typically do, but in a way that would help me understand. I want to know what it feels like to form a bond. Max's heart skipped a beat at her question. He wasn't sure what to make of it. Was she asking for something? Physical? Emotional? Or was it simply an extension of her quest for understanding? The line between curiosity and something deeper was becoming blurred. I don't think I can just give you that experience, Lyra, Max said, his voice hesitant. It's not something that can be done on a whim. It takes time, patience, and trust. Lyra's expression remained calm, but Max could see the disappointment in her eyes. I understand, she said quietly. I just wanted to know if it's something I could learn, if I could understand it the way you do. Max sighed, looking at her with a mixture of sympathy and caution. It's not something you can learn quickly, Lyra. It's something that grows over time through shared experiences and mutual respect. You can't just rush it, Lyra nodded. Slowly. I see. I will be patient, Max, but I still want to understand. I want to know what it feels like to truly connect with someone. Max didn't have an answer for that. He didn't know how to explain it further, but one thing was clear. Lyra's curiosity was no longer just academic. It had become something personal, something that was starting to challenge the boundaries between them. Over the next few days, Max found himself thinking more about his time with Lyra. Her curiosity was genuine, and it was clear that she wasn't asking about human reproduction out of mere interest in the physical act. She wanted to understand the emotional connection that came with it. But Max had learned that explaining questions were so pure in their innocence, yet they made him question his own understanding of relationships. He had spent his life surrounded by people who knew the meaning of love. But to explain it to someone who had never felt it was something entirely different. It's complicated because it's not always easy, Max said, choosing his words. Carefully, humans seek connection because we need it. We want to share our lives with others, to have someone we can trust and rely on. But relationships take work. They require patience, understanding, and sometimes even sacrifice. Lyra nodded, her large eyes focused on him. But does it always work? I mean, not every human relationship lasts, right? Max paused. It was a question that hit close to home. He had seen many relationships fail, but he knew that the bond humans sought wasn't always perfect. It wasn't about perfection. It was about the effort and the love that went into it. No, Max said slowly. Not all relationships last, but that doesn't mean they weren't real or meaningful. Sometimes people grow apart or things change. But the feelings that existed between them were true at the time. It's just part of being human. Lyra looked thoughtful. So, even when things don't work out, it's still worth it? Max smiled softly. Yes. Even when things don't work out, we learn from it. We grow. Every relationship teaches us something about ourselves and others. There was a quiet moment as Lyra processed this. She wasn't used to thinking about emotions in this way. In her culture, emotions were something to be understood but not deeply explored. The Xeriths focused on knowledge and logic. And while their society was peaceful and intelligent, they lacked the depth of emotional connection that humans experienced. To Lyra, the concept of love seemed like something far beyond her understanding. I think I understand better now, Lyra said softly, her voice almost a whisper. It's about connection. It's about trusting someone enough to open yourself to them, to share everything, even the painful parts. And that's what makes it real. Max nodded. Exactly. It's about vulnerability. When you let someone in, you risk getting hurt, but you also get the chance to experience something beautiful. Lyra's expression softened, and for a brief moment, Max saw a flicker of something in her eyes, a spark of understanding. It was as if she had taken her first step toward grasping the complexity of human relationships. I want to understand it fully, Lyra said after a long pause. I want to experience that connection you talk about. I want to know what it feels like to trust someone completely. Max felt a pang of uncertainty. He had known Lyra was fascinated by human emotions, but hearing her express such a desire made him wonder if he was the right person to guide her through this journey. Their cultures were so different, and there were still so many things about human relationships that couldn't be explained easily. He wanted to help her understand, but he wasn't sure how far he should go. It's not something that can be rushed, Max said carefully. It takes time to build trust, to truly understand someone. It's not something I can give you in an instant. It's a process. Lyra's eyes met his, and for the first time, Max saw a hint of sadness in her expression. I know. I want to try. I want to learn, Max. I want to understand it fully, even if it takes time. Max was silent for a long moment. He didn't know how to respond. What Lyra was asking for wasn't something he could give her easily. Human relationships were complicated, and they required deep emotional investment. And although he could help her understand the basics, he wasn't sure if he was ready to guide her through something so personal. I think you're asking for something deeper than what I can offer, Lyra, Max said gently. But that doesn't mean I can't help you understand. I can help you learn about trust, about love, and about the bond humans form. But you'll need to find your own way to experience it. Lyra smiled softly, her eyes bright with gratitude. Thank you, Max. That's all I want. I want to understand, and I'll be patient. Max nodded, feeling a mix of relief and uncertainty. He knew that Lyra's journey to understand human connection wouldn't be easy, but he was willing to help her take the first steps. For both of them, it would be a learning experience. And in the process, Max began to realize that perhaps Lyra wasn't the only one who had something to learn. The days that followed were filled with quiet conversations between Max and Lyra. She continued to ask him questions about human relationships, about trust, love, and what it meant to form a connection with someone. Each time Max answered, he did his best to explain the deep emotions that humans experienced, something that had always been difficult for him to put into words. Lyra's curiosity seemed endless. She wanted to know about human gestures of affection, why people gave gifts, why they held hands, and why they hugged. To her, every act of human connection seemed like a puzzle she was determined to solve. One evening, after a long discussion about the importance of family and what it meant to raise children together, Lyra surprised Max with another question. Max, she began, her voice serious but soft, I have been thinking about everything you've said. I have learned a lot about the emotional bond humans form with each other, but I want to know more. I want to understand what it feels like to truly trust someone, to be so close to another person. Max was sitting across from her, feeling both honored and slightly uncomfortable. Lyra's questions were becoming more personal, and each one made him think about the delicate line. They were walking between curiosity and something deeper. I think you're starting to understand what it means to trust and connect, Max said, choosing his words carefully. But trust takes time, Lyra. It's something that builds up over shared experiences, not something that happens in a single moment. Lyra nodded, but there was a look in her eyes that Max couldn't quite place. It was a mixture of longing and uncertainty. He could tell that Lyra wasn't just asking questions to understand human relationships anymore. She was beginning to feel something that was pushing her beyond the limits of knowledge. What if I wanted to experience it with you? Lyra asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Max froze, his heart skipping a beat. He wasn't sure what she meant by experience it, but he immediately felt the weight of her words. Was she asking for something more than just an explanation? Was she crossing a line that shouldn't be crossed? Lyra watched him carefully, her expression serious but not demanding. I don't want to rush anything, she said softly. I want to know what it feels like to be close to someone, to trust them fully. You've taught me so much already, Max. I think I could learn even more if I could feel what it's like to share that bond. Max looked at her, unsure of what to say. Her question caught him off guard. It wasn't like any question he had answered before. Though he understood her desire to experience human connection, he also knew that relationships couldn't be rushed or forced. They had to grow naturally over time. I don't think it's something that can be rushed, Lyra, Max said, his voice calm but firm. What you're asking for is not just knowledge, it's something deeply personal. It's not something I can just give to you. It has to come naturally. Lyra's face softened, and for a moment, she looked almost sad. I know it's not. The same, she said quietly, but I thought maybe we could experience it together. Not in the way humans typically do, but in a way that would help me understand it better. I want to see, to feel what it's like to truly trust and connect with someone. Max's heart pounded in his chest as he processed her words. He understood now that Lyra wasn't asking for something physical, but rather a deeper understanding of what it meant to trust, to open up, and to form a connection. Yet even with this understanding, Max felt uneasy. It wasn't just about showing someone what trust felt like. It was about letting someone into your life in a way that could never be undone. Lyra, Max said gently, what you're asking for is a lot. Human relationships are built on mutual trust, and that trust doesn't come easily. It takes time, vulnerability, and yes, sometimes even pain. It's not something that can be experienced on demand. I can help you understand, Lyra, Max said, his voice soft but firm. But I can't force you to experience something that's built over time. Trust is earned. It's not something that happens overnight. Lyra looked up at him, her expression full of gratitude and sadness. At the same time, I understand, Max. I won't rush it. Wanted you to know that I want to learn, not just from words, but from experience. I want to understand you and your people in the deepest way possible. Max smiled softly, relieved that Lyra wasn't disappointed, but he knew that their journey together was just beginning. There was still so much for them to learn about each other, and this was only the start. Thank you for understanding, Max said quietly. We'll take it one step at a time. And with that, Max knew that whatever came next, they would face it together one step at a time. After the conversation with Lyra, Max couldn't stop thinking about the bond between humans and what she wanted to learn. It had become clear that she wasn't just asking for a physical experience. She wanted to understand the emotional side of things, the connection that humans shared when they trusted and loved one another. Yet Max knew that this was not something he could simply teach her in a few conversations. It was something that had to grow, something that came with time and patience. Over the next few weeks, their conversations deepened. Lyra continued to ask about human relationships, but now her questions were different. She didn't ask about the mechanics of reproduction anymore. Instead, she asked about how humans built trust, how they shared their lives with each other, and what it meant to love someone. Max could see that she was making progress, but there was still a part of her that couldn't fully grasp the depth of human emotions. One evening, after a long day of discussing the complexities of human relationships, Max and Lyra sat together on the balcony of her study, overlooking the vast landscape of the Zirith planet. The sky was a mix of deep blues and purples, and the stars twinkled brightly above them. The air was cool and crisp, a reminder of how different their worlds truly were. Max, Lyra began, her voice soft, I've been thinking a lot about what you said about how trust is built over time. I understand that now, but there's still something I don't get. Max turned to her, his gaze focused on her face. What is it, Lyra? Lyra hesitated for a moment, then spoke. It's the emotional connection. You said that when humans share a bond, it's about more than just trust. It's about love and sharing your life with someone. But how do you know when that bond is real? How do you know if it's truly love? Max looked at her carefully. Her question wasn't new, but it was one that always seemed to come up. It wasn't an easy question to answer. Love wasn't something that could be measured or defined easily. It wasn't just an emotion, it was an experience. It's a journey that two people went on together. You don't always know at first, Max said slowly. Sometimes it takes time to realize it. But the bond becomes stronger the more you trust each other, the more you share. Love is something that grows when two people are there for each other, when they support each other through the good and bad times. Lyra nodded, her gaze thoughtful. So love is not just an emotion then? It's also a choice? Max smiled. Yes, it's both. It's an emotion, but it's also a choice. It's choosing to be there for someone, even when it's difficult. It's choosing to trust, to open yourself up to someone else, and to allow them to do the same with you. Lyra's eyes seemed to brighten as she absorbed his words. She wasn't just hearing them anymore, she was beginning to understand. It was a small but significant breakthrough. I think I'm beginning to understand what you mean, she said quietly. It's about more than just the words. It's about the actions, the way you show your feelings. It's about sharing your life, not just your body. Max nodded. Exactly. The physical part of a relationship is just one small part. The real connection comes from everything else, the emotions, the moments you share, the trust you build. That's what makes the bond strong. Lyra smiled, a genuine warmth in her expression. I want to experience that, Max. I want to experience the trust and love you talk about, but I know it won't be easy. I understand now that it's something that takes time. It's not something I can just ask for or try to rush. Max felt a wave of relief wash over him, that Lyra had finally understood what he had been trying to explain. This wasn't about a physical experience or a simple question. It was about understanding the depth of human connection and how it couldn't be forced. It had to come naturally. I'm glad you understand, Lyra, Max said, his voice sincere. It's not about rushing or forcing anything. It's about finding someone you can truly connect with, someone you can trust completely, and it doesn't happen overnight. Lyra's smile grew wider. I'm willing to wait, Max. I'm willing to take the time to understand. I don't need to experience everything all at once. I just want to learn, and I want to understand it in the right way. Max felt a deep sense of admiration for Lyra. She wasn't just curious about human relationships anymore. She was learning and growing, and she was approaching it with patience and respect. That meant more to him than anything else. I'm glad you're willing to take it slow, Max said, and I'll be here to help you understand every step of the way. They sat in silence for a while, the quiet of the night around them. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, as if reflecting the new understanding between them. Max had come to realize that Lyra wasn't just learning about human emotions, she was teaching him something too. She was teaching him that the connections we form with others, the bonds we build, are never simple. They take time, effort, and trust. And most of all, they take patience. For Lyra, the journey had just begun. But Max knew that whatever came next, they would take it together, one step at a time. There were no shortcuts to love, no quick answers to the questions that Lyra had asked, but Max was beginning to believe that the journey was worth it. And for the first time, he felt truly connected to someone, not just because of what they shared, but because of the understanding they had built together. Weeks passed, and the bond between Max and Lyra grew stronger, though it remained carefully balanced. Lyra had made significant progress in understanding human emotions, relationships, and the way humans formed connections. Every conversation with Max brought new insights for her, but she knew that there was still so much more to learn. Max, too, began to see Lyra in a different light. He had come to respect her for her patience and her deep desire to understand humanity, something that many of his own people took for granted. He had expected their interactions to remain strictly professional after all. They were from two completely different worlds. But over time, he found that Lyra's questions, her curiosity, and the way she thought about human connections had opened something in him. He had never really stopped to examine the true meaning of the bonds he shared with others. One evening, they sat in Lyra's study once again, the holographic displays showing a variety of human customs. They had been discussing the ways in which humans show affection and how those acts were often tied to deeper emotional connections. Lyra had asked questions about gestures like holding hands, hugging, and even the simple act of looking someone in the eyes. Max, Lyra began, her voice thoughtful, you've explained so much to me about human relationships. But now, I want to ask something. You've spoken a lot about trust and love, but what about pain? What does it feel like when that trust is broken? Max's heart tightened. This wasn't a question he had expected. For a moment, he was silent, thinking back to the times he had been hurt in the past. Relationships, no matter how strong, sometimes carried pain, whether it came from misunderstandings, betrayal, or the natural course of life. That's one of the hardest parts, Max said quietly. When trust is broken, it feels like a part of you is lost. It's like an emptiness that's hard to fill. That's also where growth happens. People change, and sometimes that pain teaches us lessons we might not learn any other way. Lyra nodded slowly, as if processing his words. She looked at him with a mix of curiosity and empathy. So, even pain has a purpose in human relationships. Even when it hurts, it can help someone understand more about themselves or others. Max nodded. Yes, pain doesn't feel good, but it can help us grow stronger. It shows us what really matters. It teaches us what trust means and why we should protect it. Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Max could tell that she was reflecting on his words. She had asked about pain because she had begun to realize that it was an essential part of understanding human relationships. Not just the good times, but the difficult ones too. She wanted to know how humans could still find meaning and connection. After enduring the hurt that inevitably came with life, "I think I understand," Lyra said, her voice softer now. "It's not just about the good moments. It's about all the moments, the happiness and the pain. Together they create something real." Max smiled at her, appreciating her insight. Exactly. The best relationships, the ones that last, are built on more than just the good times. They're built on trust, shared experiences, and the willingness to stick together even when things aren't perfect. Lyra's eyes brightened, and she seemed to be deep in thought. Max had often noticed how focused she became when she was learning something new, how she would immerse herself in the idea until she truly understood it. She had already come a long way in understanding human relationships. Now she was beginning to see the bigger picture, I think. "I think I can see the whole picture now," Lyra said, her voice more confident than before. "It's about connection, yes, but it's also about strengths. Strength to trust, strength to love, and strength to endure the pain. It's all part of what makes humans human, isn't it?" Max nodded, his heart warming. "Yes, Lyra, it's exactly that." For the first time, Max felt that the barrier between them had shifted. Wasn't just an alien scholar trying to understand human emotions. She was someone who truly understood the complexity of the human experience. She had moved beyond just the intellectual curiosity and had started to embrace the emotional depth that made human connections so unique. It was a beautiful thing to witness, and Max felt honored to be a part of her journey. Lyra looked at him, her gaze gentle. "Max, I'm grateful for everything you've taught me. I've learned so much about what it means to be human. But I also realize that this journey doesn't end here. Still more for me to understand." Max smiled, feeling a sense of pride in her growth. "And I'm here to help you, Lyra. Whenever you're ready to learn more, I'll be right here." Lyra smiled back, her eyes full of gratitude. "I think I understand now that the connection you speak of, the love and trust, isn't something that can be explained all at once. It's something that's felt. And maybe in time I'll be able to experience it for myself." Max's heart swelled with emotion as he realized how far Lyra had come. She was no longer just a curious scholar. She was becoming someone who truly understood the essence of human connection. And though their journey together was far from over, Max felt that they had reached a significant point in their relationship. One where both of them had gained something valuable. "I believe you will, Lyra," Max said softly. "You're already on the path." And as the two of them sat there in the quiet of the night, surrounded by the vastness of the universe, Max knew that the bond between them had deepened in ways he hadn't anticipated. They were no longer just teacher and student. They were two beings from two very different worlds, who had shared something that would last a lifetime of deep, mutual understanding. As the weeks turned into months, Max and Lyra's connection grew stronger. What had started as a simple mission to bridge the gap between human and Zirith cultures had blossomed into something deeper, more personal. Max had always approached his role as a diplomat with a sense of duty, but now, with Lyra, he was beginning to understand the emotional connections that made his job, his life, so much more meaningful. Lyra, too, had made incredible progress. She had started out with a curiosity that was almost clinical, trying to understand human relationships from a purely intellectual standpoint. But somewhere along the way, she had changed. She had learned to see the emotions that lay behind human interactions, how love, trust, and pain were intertwined in every connection. Max had seen it in her eyes, in the way she began to respond to him with more empathy, more understanding. One evening, as they sat together on the balcony of Lyra's study, watching the stars twinkle above, the conversation shifted once again. The air was warm, and the evening breeze carried the scent of the alien flowers that grew in the garden below. They had been talking about human friendships and the way people supported each other through difficult times. "I've been thinking about what you said," Lyra began, her voice soft as she looked out at the horizon. "About how relationships, whether they are romantic or just friendships, are built on shared experiences. It makes sense to me now. I can see why humans form such strong bonds with each other." Max nodded, feeling a sense of pride in Lyra's understanding. Exactly. It's those experiences, the good and the bad, that bring people closer together. You can't truly know someone until you've shared something with them, until you've been through something difficult or joyful together. Lyra turned to him, her gaze full of warmth. "I've never truly understood that until now. Studied human relationships, but I didn't realize the depth of what you all experience. I think I'm beginning to understand what it means to truly trust and care for someone." Max smiled, grateful for how far Lyra had come. She had gone from asking questions about human biology to now recognizing the profound emotional bonds that shaped human lives. But there was still one question that lingered in the back of his mind, one that had been asked long ago, but which had never truly been answered. "Lyra," Max said gently, "you've learned so much about human emotions, but there's still something I need to ask you. You asked me once if we could try to experience what humans do together. I want to know, what exactly did you mean by that? What are you truly asking for?" Lyra's expression softened as she met his gaze, and for the first time, Max saw vulnerability in her eyes, a sense of uncertainty that she hadn't shown before. She had always been confident in her questions, but now, in this quiet moment, she seemed to be searching for something deeper. "I want to understand what it feels like to truly connect with someone," Lyra said slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've learned so much about human emotions, about trust and love, but I still don't know what it's like to experience them in the way you do. I don't know if I'll ever feel them the same way humans do, but I want to try. I want to understand what it means to trust someone completely." Max was silent for a long time. Her words hung in the air between them, and he realized that this wasn't just about knowledge anymore. It wasn't just about answering questions or providing explanations. Lyra wasn't asking for a quick fix. She was asking for something more, a true emotional connection. That was something that could not be given on demand. "Lyra," Max began carefully, "what you're asking for isn't something I can just give you. It's something that has to grow over time through shared experiences and trust. It's not something that can be rushed or forced." Lyra nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Understand that now," she said quietly.
"I've learned that."
"It's not about what I want, but about what we both are willing to build together. It's about the time we spend, the trust we build, and the experiences we share. I'm willing to wait, Max. I'm willing to take this journey with you, step by step." Max felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had feared that Lyra's curiosity might push her to rush into something she didn't fully understand, but now he saw that she had truly grasped the complexity of human connection. She wasn't asking for a shortcut. She was asking for a shared experience, one that would take time, patience, and effort from both of them. "I'm glad to hear that," Max said with a soft smile, "because what you're asking for isn't something that can be given in a single moment. It's a process, a journey we'll take together. And I'm willing to go on that journey with you, Lyra." Lyra smiled back, her eyes filled with sincerity. "Thank you, Max. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that I want to keep learning, to keep understanding. And I want to do that with you." Macias reached out and gently took her hand, a simple gesture that felt like a promise. "We'll take it one step at a time. Together, we'll learn what it means to truly connect." As they sat there, hand in hand, the stars above them seemed to shine a little brighter. The path ahead wasn't clear, and they didn't know where it would lead. But for the first time, Max felt that they were on the same journey, one where both of them had the chance to grow and learn not just about each other, about themselves as well. The connection they shared was real, and though it was still in its early stages, Max knew that it had the potential to become something beautiful, something deep, and something that would last. The future was uncertain, but they were ready to face it together.